This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Nigerian security forces step up efforts to rescue 39 students kidnapped on Thursday. Africa CDC to introduce a COVID-19 vaccination scorecard for the continent. And rallies held around the world to protest police brutality and violence against women. Hello and welcome to Africa Live. As always, great to have you with us. I'm Richard Nta, live in Nairobi. And for those of you joining us from across the continent and around the globe, we thank you for joining us. Let's take a look at other stories making headlines this hour. South Africa's Cape Town to develop a second central business district to accommodate economic expansion plans. And in sports, Kenya's football governing body hosts first workshop on integrity education. Once again, welcome to Africa Live. So good to have you with us. I'm Richard Nta. We begin in Nigeria, where security forces are stepping up efforts to rescue dozens of students abducted in the country's latest mass kidnapping. On Thursday, gunmen stormed a forestry college in the northern western state of Kaduna. 39 students were taken. Deji Badmus reports from Lagos.
There's a frantic search for the students now. And virtually all the security agencies are involved in this operation, the rescue operation. The security agencies are not disclosing much. They're not saying, what they've just said is that they're making progress and that they're closing in on the bandits. And so the search is on. So you have the Air Force involved, the Army involved, the Department of State Services, the police, virtually all the security agencies in this country involved in this operation. And the Commissioner of Police in that state has said very soon that there will be a breakthrough. We don't know what's actually going on. What we know for sure is that in that state, the governor of that state has a policy of not negotiating with bandits. And even the president, too, has ruled out any form of negotiation. So everyone is waiting to see how this would be sorted out. Of course, as you know, the bandits have asked for around $1.5 million. So it's everyone is waiting to see how this would be sorted out. But the impression the government is giving is that it intends to sort this out militarily using force. But we just have to wait. We don't know if any talks are going on at all. But that rescue operation is on. And what we've been told is that sooner than later, there would be a breakthrough. I have also been speaking with one of the student leaders in that school now. He told me they are planning to organize a protest to mount pressure on the government to get the students rescued as quickly as possible because, of course, as we saw in that video, their situation is quite dire.
Tunisia has launched its COVID-19 vaccination campaign. On Tuesday, Tunis received 30,000 doses of Russia's Sputnik V, its first major delivery of the vaccines. Vaccinations have started with healthcare workers, soldiers, security officers, people over 65, and people with chronic health problems.
Maharzia Hammami is the first Tunisian citizen to get vaccinated. The nurse at Badu Basic Healthcare Facility volunteered and encouraged all citizens to join the national vaccination campaign.
I worked at COVID-19 centers, intensive care units and the airport amid the pandemic and during the lockdown. The virus poses such a threat that I was the first to register, to volunteer and to get the first dose of the vaccine. It was approved by the scientific committee at the health department. The vaccine is both safe and efficient.
Members of the COVID-19 task force revealed that only 537,000 people have so far registered for vaccination on the e-platform evax.tn. However, this number is likely to rise as the health department is launching a public awareness campaign to encourage people to trust the vaccine.
Given the number of people who have recovered from the coronavirus, an estimated 60% to 70% community immunity can be achieved if Tunisians join the vaccination campaign. There is no scientific reason to avoid vaccination. It's necessary in order to stop the pandemic and resume a normal life.
Authorities announced that within 2 or 3 days, 15,000 health workers will be vaccinated with the Sputnik vaccine. The head of Tunis Emergency Medical Assistance Center warned that the number of infections is on the rise in Tunisia.
The healthcare system was affected by the pandemic. Some 12,000 medics and paramedics were infected with the coronavirus. 55% of my staff tested positive in a few months. Only yesterday, my colleague tested positive. There is no way out of the health crisis without vaccination.
The Pasteur Institute in Tunis announced that several centers have been equipped with cooling equipment with a temperature of -20 degrees to properly preserve the vaccines. The institute also revealed that the DNA sequencing operation is going to confirm or deny the infection of a 62-year-old man by the British variant.
The first coronavirus vaccination operations for the benefit of vaccination teams and frontline health workers kicked off in 25 vaccination centers across the country. Military health personnel and security forces will get vaccinated next week. Abdel Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
The number of COVID-19 cases in the Israeli-occupied West Bank is on the rise. Palestinian leaders are calling on the World Health Organization to help them get vaccines. Many are urging the Israeli government to step up. CGTN's Stephanie Freed reports from Ramallah.
COVID-19 in Israel is over, according to the country's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel has served as a global model for its successful vaccination campaign. Nearly half of the population has been fully vaccinated, and infection rates are at their lowest point in 5 months. Businesses that survived repeated lockdowns are open again, and commercial districts are bustling.
A 40-minute drive away in the Israeli-occupied West Bank, the reality is entirely different.
As British and South African COVID-19 variants spread throughout the Palestinian population, mobility is curtailed and weeks-long lockdowns have been extended. Commercial districts are closed. As virus-linked death tolls hit record highs, some West Bank cemeteries are expanding to accommodate burial needs. The debate over Israel's responsibility for providing Palestinians with vaccinations is ongoing. Israel's leaders say a 1990s agreement absolves them from providing inoculations.
We think that it's the obligation of the occupation to do that. However, we are going to provide our citizens with the Palestinians with the vaccines.
That was back in January when the health minister was rallying for vaccines from nearly all the major providers like Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Sinopharm, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and COVAX. Vaccine delivery has been sporadic and marked by repeated delays.
The vaccines, we don't have it. The oldies like me, I should have one, but I didn't.
Days ago, a group of U.S. senators appealed to U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken to urge Israel's government to do more in supplying Palestinians with vaccines. A response to that appeal is pending. Stephanie Freed, CGTN, Ramallah.
Rallies have been held around the world to protest separate incidents of police brutality and violence against women. In Australia, demonstrations are expected across the country on Monday as calls for justice grow against top politicians accused of assault, abuse, and misconduct. In the United States, demonstrators marched in Kentucky to mark 1 year since the killing of Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old black medic shot by police last year. And in London, a mass vigil was held for 33-year-old Sarah Everard, who disappeared earlier this month. A British police officer has been charged with her kidnapping and murder. Violence against women is becoming endemic to many countries around the world. According to the World Health Organization, 1 in 3 women globally face sexually or physical violence. Intimate partner violence is among the most prevalent forms of violence and affects over 640 million women. Let's go to South Africa, a country which has been battling to bring gender-based violence under control. CGTN's Julie Shire has more on that story.
South Africa has one of the highest domestic violence rates in the world. It spiked more than 50% in a lengthy COVID-19 lockdown. Sifilele Leruli's partner has been abusive through her 11-year relationship, and it's getting worse.
The guy is like a psychopath. The guy creates even stories to lie. And now I believe like it might be true. I'm running away from home because there is no happiness. I've never seen happiness in my life. I've never seen happiness in my life.
The World Health Organization says intimate partner abuse has climbed alarmingly in many African countries since the pandemic began. Local NGO like Rays of Hope, which operates in Alexandra Township, says the increase has been evident.
We've seen women coming here every day, being battered by their partners. They were carrying their big bags with children to say, I don't have a place to sleep. My husband just chased me out of the house. Some they even went as far as separation. Some they even divorced during the lockdown.
Efforts to curb gender-based violence are falling short. Women here have been living in fear long before the pandemic hit.
I was with him for like 18 years, so the relationship was up and down. He wasn't working. Even if I put him in jobs, he would start drinking, go and gambling, and start being physically. But I thought maybe it will change, but it never changed. Even the kids, it did affect them, because they will even say, why can't you get us another father?
South Africa is tightening up laws around female attacks. Diane Nta managed to escape her relationship, but says a lot has to change, starting with unreliable structures.
We are not protected as women. They should find better systems which can protect the women and children. It will help a lot. Because for me, I can't trust police anymore. When you're with someone who's not treating you well, you need to get out.
I needed help. I was calling for help. No one wanted to listen. I didn't get that help on time. I went to the social workers, no answers. I went to the police, no answers.
Ongoing protests for several years have brought some attention to the matter, but it's going to take a lot more. Most women are trapped by financial circumstances and by the stigma related to domestic violence, chains that need to be broken by comprehensive community programs. Julie Shara, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Don't go away. The news continues on Africa Live. Here's a look at what's ahead. Sudan begins process to switch to a new federal system of governance. And South Africa's Cape Town to develop a second central business district to accommodate economic expansion plans.
Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climates and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
Tunis, Cairo,
Syria,
Juba,
Johannesburg,
Ethiopia, Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back to Africa Live. Thanks for sticking with us. Sudan is now set to begin its switch to a new federal system of governance. This switch is part of the 2020 Juba Peace Agreement. Adel El Maroui takes a look at the process and the challenges ahead.
Sudan's chairman of the Sovereignty Council, Abdel Fattah el-Burhan, has issued a decree to begin the process for establishing a regional federal governance system in Sudan. Instead of a centralized government that manages 18 states, the new system would have fewer regions and each will govern a certain number of states. Analysts say it's an inevitable step that is coming when Sudan is least ready.
Sudan is not ready.
But it's a reality that must take place. It's one of the items on the agenda of the Juba Peace Agreement, which in October 2020 stated that the governance system in Sudan must be a regional federal system. We expect that it will be implemented after the transitional period is over and when we enter the civil elections phase after 3 years, so by 2023.
Sudanese experts, academic professionals, politicians, militias and officials will hold a conference to discuss the new governance system in depth. The conference is expected to come up with the formation of regional governments, their parliaments, and define relations with the federal government.
I expect it to be a mixed system between the regional governance system under the President Nimeri in the 70s and the state system in the past regime. Darfur, for instance, is now made up of 5 states. There could be a unified authority for Darfur. It will have a head who manages the states of Darfur through mayors or governors of each state. And then there will be a federal government that manages the regions.
Getting unanimous approval on a new governance system will be challenging. The interim government does not enjoy full authority over all Sudanese territories. Some influential militias are still standing against the Juba Peace Agreement, which is dictating that governance reform.
It's been 30 years since the last regional governance system in Sudan. There's been displacements, civil wars, which creates a challenge on how regions will be divided. Add to that the economic pressure we are going through because of the US economic sanctions. Some armed movements and militias are not yet part of the peace agreements. They must be on board.
It's not going to be an easy process. The state system introduced a lot of powers to many Sudanese states. If we're going back to a regional system, maybe many would consider that a drawback in their authority and power. That's why we need a popular discussion. People must feel included so that a new system becomes acceptable by all.
Sudan's new federal system must also guarantee a level of equality between the new regions so that they can all enjoy the same rate of economic development. This new governance system is a necessary step that might not be happening at the best time. Sudan, however, cannot but proceed in its economic, political, security and now governance reforms all at once so it can complete its transitional phase in time. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
And now to South Africa, where Cape Town is set to develop a second central business district hub in order to accommodate the city's economic expansion plans. The move stems from a lack of space within the current CBD. A new airport is also set to complement the new business district. CGTN's Travis Andrews has more with this report.
It's been on the cards for a while now. Cape Town is finally set to get a second central business district in an area called Bellville. Located just 22 kilometers from the main CBD, Bellville has traditionally been a transport funnel, connecting people to different areas in the city. Through the recently launched Bellville Future City project, the city is hoping to transform the new CBD into a major economic hub.
It's a multi-billion-rand project. We're looking at, for instance, a couple of sectors like the transport nodes. We're talking about infrastructure-led economic growth. Now, we cannot just want to have in the whole of Cape Town one CBD hub like the city of Cape Town. We need a secondary one, just as big as the Cape Town CBD, and that is Bellville.
With little to no space left in the central CBD, Bellville presented city planners with the ideal location for the new CBD. That is because it has existing infrastructure to support the expansion plans. However, the city will invest further to develop the area.
We're talking about massive upgrade of the transport interchange to the tune of tens of millions of rands, but also the transport, the road infrastructure, but also the housing development. We're talking about in excess of 25,000 new housing opportunities to come in the next couple of years in the Bellville CBD area.
And those housing opportunities are also set to create jobs, further stimulating the economy. Other large-scale investments have also been made. Cape Town's second CBD will also see the development of a new airport, one that has double the amount of runways as Cape Town's main international airport and mainly serve private aviation interests. The new airport will increase capacity for private, charter and cargo flights to Cape Town.
Air connectivity for Cape Town, bringing in more aeroplanes for passengers to arrive and for cargo, for export purposes, is basically a no-brainer. It's an important driver of economic growth, and if you consider Cape Town's position in South Africa, we're a long-haul destination. And so if there's more airlift, it would be very positive.
For now, work on developing the new Bellville CBD is already underway, and the entire process is set to take a number of years before its completion. Ravzan News, CGTN, Cape Town.
And we're not done just yet. We've got your sports news coming up after the break. Here's a look at what's ahead. In sports, Kenya's football governing body hosts first workshop